Welcome everybody to the APL Asia stream. My name is Diana and next to me we have Kafil. Welcome in.
Thank you all. Excited to be once again back on the stream. Already gone through quite a banger set of series for OCE now. Onto the Asia as well, and look, there's a bunch of the solid games already lined up through the bracket.
But before we go to the games, you already mentioned there's some banger games, but how did it come to these banger games? Let's have a look at the Swiss stage. What has happened before? Because obviously right now we are in the playoffs and you can see each team fighting their way through all the way to the top. Then few of those fall off on the middle, then it got themselves in the round 4, round number 5. You can see all the pathings, and obviously you have all the 8 teams that have made it through here. But the real question now stands, right? We have our 8 teams: Sharks, Unknown Burgers, Pew, Stray Dogs, No Cap, Knock, Daystar, and Pavilions. Basically, those are the 8 teams. So let's have a look. What are the standings? What is the matchups for the playoff series? What are we going to be sending our first few games into? As you can see, Sharks LFO got themselves a matchup against Unknown Burgers. By the way, banger name. pewpewGANG got themselves a game against Stray Dogs. No Cap against Knock. We know them. Knock had a fantastic run last year when it came to their it was apex spot. They made it really far. Daystar Prevail. Nothing too surprising to see them come this far, I would say, but definitely to see them, both of them already fight in the first round. That's a matchup we're going to be spectating later. But Kafilo, what is the first match we have prepared for the stream?
Yeah, so for the stream, we will be covering first as pewpewGANG versus Stray Dogs as well. It's honestly an El Clasico of Southeast Asia Siege, really, because on one hand, pewpewGANG, the remnants of the, I believe it will be the second iteration of Elevate roster, with Barcode and Shibinuts actually assembling the roster around them with a few of the newer gunners, and they came in third from the open qualifier number 1. And then against them is the Stray Dogs, a roster that had a bit of a rocky turnaround back in the a year or so ago, back when they were known as Gelida Esports. A few of the players like Roldini and Labyrinth used to be part of the rosters, like Champion, like Q-Confirm as well, and those were quite glorious times as well back for SEA, arguably during their quote-unquote gold era. But look, it's a roster that came in first during the open qualifiers. They are a very able roster, but for pewpewGANG, they have the element of a dark horse, given that it's only 2 of the original players from the second elevator iteration.
Did you think because of that they might have an advantage, or rather maybe a disadvantage against the opponents? Yes, always experience and something in team play and how long a team plays together also comes down and will influence the performance. Do you think that those factors could influence on the way these teams are going to play today?
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be a big test, I reckon, because, on one hand, you've highlighted it just perfectly right here, that, on one hand, it's the experience, it's also the chemistry, let's not forget, because for a team like Stray Dogs, 4 out of 5 people played together for multitude of seasons and kept on improving their own performance. On the side of pewpewGANG, it's a relatively new-ish roster that doesn't really have much of the, bigger leagues behind their belt. But the beauty of that as well is that it's a roster that can bring their own sort of iteration, their own sort of idea of how to play really Siege. So we could see potentially a very highly aggressive gameplay. Remembering the some of the top teams back in last year and even in 23, their whole motto was why train in scrims where we can run it in ranked and just absolutely outgun everything and everyone. So I feel this could potentially be the case, especially with pewpewGANG.
Well, we're gonna have to see it, and you already mentioned a little bit the playstyles, but will those playstyles match the maps? And that is the important part. As the veto is ready, let's have a look. What are the 3 maps we're gonna be seeing in this best of 3? You mentioned a little bit of an aggressive playstyle, so maybe you want to be dragging your opponents onto there, as we have the first map being picked and chosen by pewpewGANG. They're going to be going to Night Haven Lab. The second one is going to be Consulate, decided by Stray Dogs, and at the end the decider will state the good old classic Clubhouse. What a better way to end the best of 3 than to go to the map that has been the longest in the pool, that it has the biggest experience, the biggest knowledge you have on that map. Started off with one of the newest maps, go back to a middle old map, and then to the oldest one. A little bit of a history when it comes to these maps. But you mentioned a little bit their playstyle. Will those playstyle function with these maps? What do you think?
See, I'm a little bit split on the choice of the labs specifically, because canonically, whether it's Southeast Asia or South Asia, the players in the region do tend to be more locked up to specific set of maps. With labs being introduced here, we've seen it back in OC. It has a very split sort of turnaround, whether it's either teams that are, you know, so locked in, so stratted out the map that they know every nook and cranny of it, and there's teams that look like absolute lost puppies on it as well. So with SEA, I feel like it may be of a lesser effect, but labs in its entirety does require you to respect every sort of position. It requires you to be very diligent about the droning, and here for the pewpewGANG, it is a perfect opportunity to really catch their opponents off guard, bring some of that chaotic element of theirs to the game, and potentially, well, stake their claim in the first map.
Yeah, but pewpewGANG, they may have chosen this map, but the thing is just they are now obviously in the attack, and we know Nighthaven Labs. It is a map that yet has been very new, but yet is very defender-sided, and Stray Dogs are the ones starting on the defense here, and they might be able to get themselves a lot of these rounds, and especially when it comes to these two rosters. You mentioned earlier that they've been going into ranked back then, and why scrim when you can just gun everybody down in ranked? But there's a different set to having a comp mentality and ranked mentality. What if it doesn't quite work out? What if pewpewGANG will be left in a very big disadvantage because they're starting on the attack? It might be their map pick, but they're starting with a huge disadvantage. So either they have great strats and great knowledge on how to play this map, or this might be a very straight map for Stray Dogs, because as soon as the mentality is broken, this map could shift and change. But how much do you think is the defense going to affect pewpewGANG here, because they're starting on the attack, and that might hurt them quite a lot?
See, oftentimes for teams, yeah, barcode alludes to that actually quite well. But yeah, the idea here is that, well, for teams, whenever they do pick the map, they going into this with full understanding that the enemy team will try to pick the most comfortable position, aka in this case it would be the defense. And I feel in this case, I think the first 3 rounds will give us a pretty solid indication of how well prepared pewpewGANG are. Because they will need to ensure that they are quite efficient on the initial set of moves on the I suppose called stage 1, where you get all your breaches done. You get the IT balcony open, you get the lounge balcony open as well, and you start slowly but surely pressuring the opposition. Then the stage 2 is obviously going and getting inside the building and actually going for the frag. So in this case, for pewpewGANG, they need to be just very efficient about how quickly they can cut time in doing the breaches, and then open up as much of a buffer for themselves to get the frags. Whereas on the side of Stray Dogs, breach denial is going to be their bread and butter, I feel.
That's definitely going to be one of the most important things, and I definitely know that. They've brought a mute and a bandit to help with that. Maybe a little bit of a side note or information. These two teams have actually not even faced each other so far in this Challenger series. Throughout the entirety of the Swiss stage, they managed to stay as far as possible away from each other and have not played against each other yet. So this could be a very interesting first map, especially the first few rounds of set. They're going to indicate quite a lot of what the tone is going to be on this map, especially who's going to be a little bit more dominant than the other team. Because this will also mean that these two teams might actually get to know each other a little bit more now in this matchup, because it is their first official match against each other.
Only mind you, 4 of the Stray Dogs players did play against Barcode and Nuts before, and things have been quite rather hectic back in the ye old days. But, well, it's very much far from the ye old days, and funnily enough, RizCap is already managed to make an entry from the bottom of the building, which is actually a perfect opportunity here to start sowing a little bit of chaos straight from the get-go, because it doesn't seem like anyone is actually expecting much of movement from down below. It is the top-down push that is being expected the most.
It's also being prepared as we now also reinforcing off the wall, making sure that they cannot rotate through that. We have the mirrors to help us through. The bandit's still in his position, trying to make sure that that spot stays closed as much as possible. The only one that's down below is currently the Fenrir, trying to make sure the bandit's not going to lose his life too much. But there is risk cap. He is down below with that buck and could be a little bit dangerous as we are also close range with the shotgun. Look at him, slowly but steady walking up these aqua stairs. We're just waiting and holding this one angle. This could be a little bit bad. This Blackbeard is coming in closer to try to take on this gunfight. Not quite finding the shots yet as we're trying to play it safe from both of these two sides.
Yeah, it's a good usage of the Blackbeard as well, with Grodd being able to force the mute out of the position. Roldini is very much in a dangerous position. The problem being that Piola Mar with that push. That's actually a huge opener here, and that will destabilize pewpewGANG's attack quite heftily.
Also now lost their Thermite as well on top of that. So basically they may have gotten the breaches open, they may have a shield, but they've lost their Thermite and they've lost their buck they could have had a little bit of help with as we try to take on the gunfight on Mazza, not quite finding the shots from the side of the Flores RDA. Not quite finding success here. It just keeps going down and down. Stray Dogs every single time with the upper hand here, getting on these kills. Barcode is now the only man standing in this 1v4. He's gonna have to hit 4 beautiful headshots if he wants to make any kind of a difference. Finds the first one with the pistol. Good shot, but will find himself in a sheet killer corner. Not quite able to find himself out of that position. With that, the first round is been decided. The Stray Dogs, they take the first defense.
Yeah, solid turnaround for Stray Dogs. The moment they realized where the actual good bulk of the push will come through, they were able to set the flanks right and were able to really punish pewpewGANG for being a little bit too complacent with the flank watch as well. The first part of the that whole domino puzzle really was Rizcap dying pretty early into the push, and well, only then to get traded out. So I reckon for Stray Dogs, they coming into this actually with a pretty flexible sort of understanding of what needs to be done. And for pewpewGANG, there is a possibility that they may have overextended with the choice of Nighthaven Labs, especially with the fact that Deimos is out of the equation, who oftentimes is a very quintessential sort of operator to be brought on out to clear out the roaming game that is on the labs. But for the time being, into round 2, the main choice that I'm curious about is how will Roldini play out his position as Skopos.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Skopos could be a little bit of an interesting take here. See, we've seen a lot of these roam strats, but I mean, look at the lineup that pewpewGANG have prepared, right? They're not quite going to be interested too much in the roam, and that is the key fact. If Skopos, and that is a good thing because she can go back to side if needed, but that blitz with the glass combined with opening up that breach, there's just going to be so much chaos within the next few seconds. Look at it. As the EMP is going out, the Thermite is opening up the breach. He doesn't have too many charges. It's the only one that he has left, and with that, the wall is open. The action needs to happen, but we're still just waiting a little bit. pewpewGANG taking this maybe a little bit too slow. They're working out to see what's going on. Verticality's not been open, something that they could have taken advantage of earlier, but now they're in this little bit of a tricky position. Hatch was closed for way too long. They have not reacted when they needed to. Look at this. Smokes are going out, trying to create a little bit of cover for the side of pewpewGANG. So does the Lion Scan. Nothing's really happening.
A bit of a stall out really here for pewpewGANG, as right now they need RDA to actually be able to keep up the crossfire, at least to force some sort of a gunfight upstairs to take away the opportunity. But right now it's a whole massacre right now. pewpewGANG not looking too hot at all whatsoever. Barcode is the last man standing. And all of that effort that they tried to pull off with a very accelerated push just absolutely went, well, upside down.
I mean, we are literally upside down here, no? Oh no, that's OC. True. My bad. Wrong read. Oh. Oh. What a nice shot. Look at that. Boop.
Good night.
Just boop. I got booted.
That's it.
Round number 2. Here again, I think pewpewGANGo had a really interesting approach to that one. They had a little bit of a cheeky rush strat, but it did not quite work out. And I mean, I think a very big key indicator, and I also want to hear your opinion on this, was just the stalling of time. They had everything, but they were so scared to act with it.
Attackers need to locate.
Yeah, I think the factor of that, the hatch played almost too big of a value really at the end, given just the sheer amount of the fear factor that came into the play. And yeah, pewpewGANGo kind of decided, oh, we actually gonna, start doubting ourselves, start, thinking about, oh, what if we try to cross and they start shooting us? Well, then we all die. And what happens if you just stall out? You also die. So it's one of those things that they just really needed to, well, commit to the bit.
Exactly.
As we say. And they didn't. Well, therefore, 2-0 in favor of Stray Dogs. But right now, look, they Stray Dogs are feeling nice and comfortable here on their own opponent's map choice, and it shows that they came into this quite prepared. They did their due diligence, and a very courageous play here for Pure Lamar to just get the hatch done and then just bail out.
Just get out of this position. Hatch is done. That means you're gonna have to use a little bit of a cheeky hard breach gadget on it for it to be opened. Now we're going to the third side, the tertiary side. It's always the kitchen side that's not quite always too much popular, but we're playing top floor yet again. I feel like with great operations from the side of Stray Dogs, so just make sure that a lot of time is being wasted.
This second floor setup is actually quite genius here from Stray Dogs. The sheer amount of extension they have whilst having the safety behind the Islami barricades and the ballistic shield actually off Scopus is actually quite perfect here. So I commend Roldini and Co here for their play. Unfortunately though, for Pure Lamar, he doesn't get to stick around for too long, but regardless, like positioning wise, their extension actually is a very valid one.
Extension is looking really good right now. Even though they may have lost a player early on, it doesn't really matter because look, they still have so much control, and pewpewGANGo, they've not even yet set a foot into the top floor yet. They're still trying to clear to the top floor side, and that's going to be a little bit dangerous because here we are, the first shots are coming through. The first person to die from the side of pewpewGANGo is going to be RizCap. Losing the Ash doesn't matter too much because yes, she is the person who's meant to go in and meant to do the damage. She's done what she had to do, and now it's time for the team to react. But here again, so much time is going. We have taken the top floor control but not completely cleared it, and that is going to be an issue. Oh, should have not taken that gunfight. You were already in a disadvantage. Losing 2 players now, leaving 2 of your teammates in a 2v4 in the last minute of this game.
Yeah, between Liberath and Gallet, this should still be a workable situation, albeit they need to be very wary about how they're playing their cards here, because this will be a very dangerous one exactly for that. Hardier is just absolutely cooking there. Albeit now for Gallet, 1v3 is nearly an impossible task.
But not completely impossible. As I say that, last person also loses their life, and with that we have the first attacking round for pewpewGANGo. They get themselves the first victory on the attacking side. The tertiary side has been successfully attacked. Now, on that round, the defense still looked really, really strong to me. I'm just wondering why they've given up the top floor space, because yes, they were eliminated. You can't say too much about that. But we saw that one of the players that were upstairs, the Legion, he was actually in perfect position to help the Azami for the breach top floor, for the person to not walk in, to cover a little bit her back. She could have stayed in the right position as she was playing behind those Kiba barriers next to the window, behind that Scopus gadget as well. And somebody was playing on the stairs. So just my question is, why have they given up actually the top floor? Because throughout the positions, they were in great spots, but I feel like they're yet again, both of these two teams maybe just a little bit too afraid to actually show the aggression a little bit.
Well, it would be, yeah, it would be either that or the other theory would be that, they tried to rotate a few of the players around because they saw that a few of the entry points downstairs got opened up. So assumption that the pressure point will be actually from there rather than anywhere else would be the main priority. And well, unfortunately, in that regard, the guessing game was actually a failure for Stray Dogs, I would imagine. But look, yeah, definitely a very valid point in terms of that. It's just outright scared to take those, to take some of the plays, some of the gunfights, and trying to play safe. In reality, resulted in just ultimately forfeiture of the round. So, wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Though this is actually going to be a
That
pretty interesting
Claw
position
just destroyed two
Yeah.
ace charges.
Yeah, two
Beautiful.
Selmas out.
Oh.
At least there's still the Thermite Brimstone charges, so you can there's technically still position to work around with. But risk cap, man, struggling to find themselves the frag here.
Riskap doing as the Ash was meant to do, walking in and getting the kills that were needed. The Cade was a little bit of an issue as he was obviously Cade tricking the wall. Now with him gone, Attack finds himself in a very good spot here because not only have they eliminated a player that was doing the Ds and was a little bit tricky to handle with, but they've also taken out a C4. And as I say that, the man count immediately is being equalized. But the question is, who is jumping in? It is the Thermite. It could have been someone else. C4 is going to be thrown. Is not going to find anyone. Lucky for them because that one was really close. As the Poultice downstairs going to pre-prep the C4, and with that,
Perfect.
beautiful injured. The second heartbreach shot on the floor. Two of these people from PewpewGANGo, very low HP here. They're in a very tough position. It's down below, they have the pulse. They cannot physically be planting unless they're taking that side towards Aqua. There's a 4-4, but look at the health advantage from the side of Stray Dogs, and also man advantage
Perfect,
now.
Yeah. Man advantage now, yeah, the health pool advantage, and the M1014 gets to ring out as well, is a perfect time to bear witness here. Though the trades do come on through, and it's still everyone's game between Barcode and RDA, they have a rough time. For Barcode, a singular shot should be basically the end of him, really. And then you look at the health pool for Labyrinth and Roldini, two of the veteran players of SCA. They should be able to really make it a pretty quick working as well, even with a shotgun out.
Attackers have recovered their
Work on close range as we try to sneak up. We are on that corner. No way he gets that shot.
Goodbye.
What?
left.
That shot was
welcome to
absolutely
SCA.
crucial as RDA is the last one standing. He might get one. Good usage of utility right there, but there's still 2 more to go. The mirror window will be a tough one to defeat. And Stray Dogs, they get the victory in that round. But holy, what am I witnessing here? That should have never been a kill, first of all. And second of all, Stray Dogs, they've taken every utility what they had and used it to their fullest potential. Again, they knew exactly what PewpewGANGo were trying to do and already pre-placed the pulse down below. That was actually a great read from Stray Dogs here because in that round, every single time something happened from the side of PewpewGANGo, it felt like they always had a response.
Certainly, yeah. Well, for PewpewGANGo, it feels like they're playing less like a team of a five-man team of players, but it's more so 5-stack of solo players really, and that's the unfortunate sort of reality of it, where they stuck at as well is just it feels like a very uncoordinated sort of play coming from them. Hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more from them coming into maybe these next 2 rounds before we get to move on to the defense, because ideally right now for PewpewGANGo, these next 2 rounds need to be won out in their favor to make it a 3-all, to then push it to a bit more of a stable ground on the defense for themselves. But alas, I mean, you highlighted it as well, Labs is canonically a very sort of defender-sided map, and in such, for Stray Dogs right now, they have a perfect opportunity to make it even just a 4-2, if not a 5-1. And if it is a 5-1, look, at this point we may as well move on to the map number 2.
The thing with Nighthaven Labs is it is very defender-sided. Yes, there has been a little bit of a switch. It has come back a little bit more to the attacking side, but let's be honest, if you are in a 5-1, it's always a tough decision. It's always difficult to deal with because you're fighting against something, and the Thermite is going to be denied. No? Oh, he was just dying a little bit to the right. He chose the wrong wall. With that, both main breaches are open. This is exactly what we need for the side of pewpewGANG. But now the question is, can they make the right decisions to push on to here? Because right now, the hatch is still closed, and this is the one main issue they had earlier. They also not just killed somebody on site, and this is the time for them to react to what's happening, because they have the advantage. They have everything they need to push on site and get the control, potentially even get the plant down. But they're, again, not reacting to what weakness they've created for the opponents. They're just waiting and stalling the time yet again. It just takes a little bit of time. So Stray Dogs will find these picks one by one. We'll find the time to fall back to side, because there's still two roamers up there who are disconnected from the team and cannot play together. There's another kill folds, and now we have the Stray Dogs. They're slowly but steady crawling back the numbers.
With 3 versus 4 now remaining, pewpewGANG are in a bit of a dire situation. Swing comes on through, it's Peepster that gets the better of Barcode. Unfortunately, that's another one that bites the dust as well. Rizcap is gone, it's all down to RDA, and he's nowhere yet to be seen to even get a smidge of a refrag. Spotted on the cams as well, notified to the rest of the team. It is an all-out manhunt, and a shorty, super shorty matter of fact, in the hands of Labyrinth is there to end his life as yet another run, another round for Stray Dogs to win.
And there we go. The defense shines bright as it should. The last round for Stray Dogs to actually show off. Well, we're going now to the tertiary side, and this is the one side that pewpewGANG actually got themselves the advantage on. But here's the thing. Throughout these rounds, and this is something you've pointed out in your last analysis in the last round, is that pewpewGANG, they're playing very individually and relying on that individual plays. Now, Stray Dogs, they have no information on how pewpewGANG wants to attack this, right? They want to heavily go on that top floor side, and already we can see that there has been a full-on adaptation to their process, to their lineup. We have two people that are denying breaches. We have somebody who's gonna slow down these opponents on the top floor. We have the Clash, and yes, you can argue left, right, and center, but Clash on this map has actually become really viable because she's just slowing down these opponents, especially these shield operators. The more damage you do, the further the shield goes away, and she's actually become one of the hard counters, or like slowly becoming a hard counter for these shield operators. And the lineup has been nearly perfectly adapted to their opponent's team. The only thing that I'm missing a little bit in our lineup is maybe a smoke or a goal, a little bit of area denial. But other than that, they have basically taken the strat that pewpewGANG showed them the first time on Kitchen and just made a counter strat to that. And this might really fall in the favors of Stray Dogs again.
Certainly so. Well, the Stray Dogs, they'll need to ensure that they just keep up their momentum, because if they will end up winning out this map and, you know, claiming their stake as well, even on the attack. For Consulate, this should be a pretty straightforward run for them, given that this is a much more comfortable sort of area for them to play around. Now, looking specifically at this specific round, yeah, like you highlighted, Clash will be actually absolutely a phenomenal asset here as well for Stray Dogs roster, and we got to see it even in OCE throughout the whole beginning as well of the year. The moment Clash does come out, if there's any sort of a backup as well that's playing around the Clash, it is a deadly duo to really consider. So at this point, really the sole job of Pio Lamar here, slow down this push, force them to fall back and stall out. Because this is what has been killing really pewpewGANG before. It's just the stalling out.
Look at this from the side of pewpewGANG. We have adapted a little bit. We know where this Clash is and we need to deal with it, but the back flank is coming in. Broad is the one to find himself the first kill here, and it is going to be on the Kai. That means the C4 is gone. The flanks are coming in. There's not quite info on that, but look at this shot as he takes out one, he takes out a second, and the defense is crumbling apart. It looked so great, but as you said, if you take out the Clash, you need to have support behind that Clash. Somebody who shoots and is the gun. That just wasn't the case. If we find one, we find two, but there is 3 more to go, and we're a little bit of HP. The Monty close range will be something we cannot deal with. The tertiary side shall be won by pewpewGANG as they've gone themselves 2 attacking rounds, and now they switch to the defensive side. Now, how much of a benefit will they now have? Because theoretically speaking, they've gotten the bare minimum what they needed. They've got the default swap, they got the 4-2. when they move to the defensive side, how likely are we going to see a comeback here?
Oh, look, there's maybe a chance that we'll get to see really the full effect of this, I feel, going into this specific round here, the round number 7, Dianic. Because for pewpewGANG, look, this is... this half is going to be quite needed. It's for, well, solely redemption. B is to be able to really just to recover their mental, because I would imagine that things are looking pretty tilting, really. Considering we got to see a few of the rounds that got pretty close and still couldn't really clutch it all out. So for pewpewGANG, they need these rounds. They need these very starting few defensive rounds, like almost air, really, here. Whereas on the side of Stray Dogs, look, they have that 2-round buffer. They can afford to, you know, experiment maybe a little bit, or better yet, you know, set themselves up for a few of the for the few of the plays, and then if that doesn't work, they can afford to really, you know, switch things around. And I'm looking at this lineup as well. I mean, the Kali introduction on Labs out of all the places feels like a little bit of an unusual one, albeit her utility is absolutely key for some of the breaches. And then you're looking at the Nomad is much more of a normality. The Recruit as well being introduced, so it's a bit more of a, like, you know, they wanting to dip a little bit of everything kind of a deal with their lineup.
Trying to get the best deal that they can with this lineup, but is that really the case here? So we can see from the side of pewpewGANG, they're not quite making the fuss about holding the breaches down and keeping them close. Rather, they're just letting the opponents get them and trying to then play the guns individually. And that is something, again, they have been good at, and that is something that they're known for, but that is something that can also bite back. We saw on the attack, it's not quite gonna work out. The big difference on the defensive side is that they know where the opponents are coming from. They know what angle they're staying in, while the opponents may need to face check and check so many spots. All they have to do is just watch that one angle and then eventually take on that gunfight. So they have a little bit of an advantage there. Definitely not something that Stray Dogs can overcome, because look at this drone work. So many drones are still alive, and so we have still 2 drones in the pocket that we could be using just second after the game is coming in. They've already achieved every single breach is open and established a ground control. I think I'm a little bit scared of his risk cap here, because he's close range to their opponent here. Over to take on this gunfight. That Keeper Bear might help out a little bit. The Ace is opening up the breach. The C4 is going to be thrown. It's not going to find anyone, as it will be destroyed.
Yeah, right now this is all going to be a pretty dicey situation already. Quite a fair few avenues already being opened up. Stray Dogs, they haven't yet lost a single person, and they can get started on this. Gallet is the one to actually get rid of one of the arguably the most dangerous players out of the whole of the pewpewGANG, that is the RDA. And so far, that is a big opener already. That's another one down, and pewpewGANG are falling apart like just flakes.
Look at it, 1 by 1. All of a sudden, they're left in a 1v5. This looked really good for them, but it just wasn't working out because they were pushing together. And this is something we've just seen. Something when you have an IGL who's taking the control and says, right, boys, 3, 2, 1, go, send it. And every single angle was cut off. There was multiple people trying to take out one person. That was just a teamwork that we need. And that round was really well played by Stray Dogs, because that sets them 1 round away from the match point. And and honestly, I want to hear your opinion on that attack, because I'm pretty sure you saw something there. What made it so successful?
Look, I'll have to say that, yeah, it's once again, like I mentioned before as well, it's just the you know, the efficiency of how they managed to get the breaches done. They were pretty well drilled as well in terms of what angles to take, what angles to hold. I mean, you saw this the moment the opening inside the connector wall has been forfeited and sort of had to be re-peeked by the defense. There was already Gallet waiting for that peak to happen. He already had his sights trained. They know exactly each and every angle to expect from pewpewGANG and where they could be swung. And I mean, there's an argument to be made that honestly those are pretty default angles, but in training those default angles is where they were able to just, well, absolutely full-on throttle their opponents in every capacity. So for Stray Dogs, they just coming off this just well prepared. They drilled the map. They knew that labs would be picked against them at some point. So instead of praying and waiting and trying to win the map bans and just completely get rid of it, they welcomed that change. And I mean, look at this: 2 minute 25. We already got the breach going, and now this is forcing pewpewGANG to actually go on a full-on defensive. They going for the full-on turtle setup where they completely deny any sort of peak points and instead just are waiting for those choke points to come through, and which is also, mind you, a very valid strategy to work with.
It was a little bit of a weak point within the last round. Adapting to this round, this could be quite successful for them as they have the control still in the connector here with the Azami. And the other thing, breach has been electrified by Kai. There's a mirror window, there's a smoke playing behind it. So theoretically speaking, but look at this utility usage. Use the no-mid traps, use the no-mid flashbangs to get yourself into that connector inside. Now they've taken the control so smoothly. Yes, they may have taken a little bit of damage, but look at it, the time. 1:30 is left and they have so much control established. As an outro, open up the breach, the C4 is going to be thrown. Not going to find anyone with that. The breach is open. Then is set. Another pressure point has been created. And slowly but steady, Stray Dogs, they're setting themselves up for a good execute here.
Indeed, they do. A minute remaining. The smoke grenades now getting completely extinguished. It's once again Gallet actually getting the better of RDA. It's all complete, fall apart, but thankfully there is some redemption. It's Rizcap is the one to get the shotgun ringing, and on top of that, Barcode is able to fight back. So 2 versus 3 with 50 seconds remaining. No, team kill over team kill. Roldini needs to come help, come get your man. He's team killing your own team, but in reality, it's all a farce. It's all a Stray Dogs win.
Chaos happened within that round, but what can you really do? At the end of the day, it worked out yet again. A 2v3 turned out yet again very positive. It was very close at the end. We saw the time slowly but steady ticking in the red, but it wasn't quite successful for pewpewGANG to just hold them off. We saw them desperately trying to play against it. But the thing is, yet again, they were playing individually. The smoke has made sure that they can't play together. Instead of pushing through it together, trying to take that gunfight onto side, the one stayed behind, completely cut off his vision, being left in a 1v1, not quite being successful in that 1v1 because he didn't know where the opponent is coming from, where the shot's coming from, where am I being shot as the opponent swings, gets the kill. And then he's left with his teammate in a 1v2 last few seconds, where all it took were for both of these opponents a singular hit and they're all gone. Now with that means Stray Dogs, they got themselves into the match point. 2 rounds on the attack so far played, 2 rounds on the attack so far won. And mind you, I just want to add quickly that the top floor side of Nighthaven Labs is the bomb set that has the highest success rate for the defensive side. So them winning that actually is hurting pewpewGANG quite a lot.
Twice as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Stray Dogs managed to get claim their stake on that side and shown absolute and utter dominance in every capacity here. So now for pewpewGANG, well, look, this is the match point already. We're on the precipice of potentially Stray Dogs claiming the first map, and that is their opponent's map pick as well. And going into Consulate, it's going to be even more convoluted on top of it all. Thankfully, though, for pewpewGANG, Shibinat is the one to actually open up the scoreline, and that is a lion. That is one of the key pushing operators to be out of the equation, which is not particularly the most ideal situation, given that it's also Mr. 9-5 scoreline as well. But spotted again with the drones should be an easy pre-fire here and that is if Gallet is knowledgeable about the positionings here.
And look at this, the drone is coming through. They have the information. One is already looking for the drone. Whole flashbangs are coming through. He knows he's there. The blitz is right behind him. No escaping point for you.
No.
Not today. You're going to be taking out Barcode. He really tried to stay alive, but unfortunately, he put himself yet again in a position where he was left alone. We look at Grodd. Here again, another point, another player who is completely alone. No support from his teammate, but now we have to come back, actually. We have the teammate coming in for support. Beautiful crossfire, taking out the blitz, and that is huge. But you gotta be careful. There's a few more of these opponents up and above trying to get the kills. Beautiful shot there. Equalize it, make it back down to 3v3 as we have a tiny little window to escape. But the verticality, no stairs for you. No run back to the side. Rizcab, the only one that's upstairs. RDA is trying to help his teammate. This could be the time for both of them to just retreat back to side. But rather going back to side, they both decide to play in the top floor individually, far away from each other, where they have to win their ones if they want to turn this round.
Yeah, the turned around from a pretty solid and convincing round for pewpewGANG to kick it off to now an absolute dire survivals here. 3 versus 2 in favor of Stray Dogs. 42 seconds remaining. There's still plenty of opportunities for some of the openers here. It is interesting to see, though, that Roldini is pretty wary that there is some sort of a presence on the ground floor, and he completely floors poor Rizcap. It's all down to RDA, the man who had such a phenomenal attacking side, but during the defense just could not find a single step safe. And now we'll have to defend against the 1v3. That's 1 to go. 2 more to go here, and with that already, Roldini continues to keep on sowing chaos. There is information about Labyrinth as well. Should be easy pickings here. Free Fire needs to come through, but as of now, the plan is starting to go down. The denial needs to happen now, right here. No shot landing. It's all down to Roldini to try to land the shots here, and in fact, he will be the first map to go into the hands of Stray Dogs.
Last map decided by the opponents. pewpewGANG not quite able to close up their own map pick as Stray Dogs walk away with fashion of a 7-2. What can you really do when everything is just not working out in your favor? pewpewGANG definitely a lot of the things they're gonna have to take away from this map and improve for the second one, because it is a best of 3. They will have another chance here to move further. There is also a low bracket, so it is not completely out yet, but this first map has really shown the big problems from the side of pewpewGANG. That individual play kept on hurting themselves instead of helping. Yes, sometimes you have to, but you just saw there in the last round, if you position yourself in a 2v3, which is still very likely to be won by the team at a disadvantage, but so far away from each other, where you give your teammate a 1v2, a 1v3 scenario, at that point, it is nearly too impossible. Chances has been decreased to nearly a 0 of that team winning the round. And that is just over the entirety of the game. You saw them multiple times doing those individual plays where it hurt them more than it actually helped them.
Yeah, no, you're very much right here. It's been quite an unfortunate and borderline, well, disappointing really turnaround here for pewpewGANG. I would imagine that they would be quite disappointed in that turnaround as well, seeing as it was their own map pick. For them, look at, back to the drawing board. Really, Consulate doesn't really bring much of a promise here either for them, because if they thought that Labs was, a map, a vast and convoluted map, Consulate will crank that up to another 10 times, really, with the sheer abundance of angles that can be held and positions that you have to keep in mind. The fact that they are playing as like a 5 solo stack won't really do much of a favor to them. So going into this, I'm of the opinion that this should be a pretty straightforward run. Stray Dogs so far managed to show us that they're not here to to muck around. There's a reason why during the first qualifier they're the ones that came in first, really, despite not being invited. And I mean, that is arguably the highest position that you can find yourself in outside of being invited to the Challenger Series. So to me, this tells me that it's a roster that is ready to rumble. They've fixed all the problems that plagued them back in the the Asia series back in last year's as part of the previous rosters, and now they are a pretty well-rounded team. Honestly, I mean, you look at some of their executions during the attack, and that was a very well drilled, well prepared, consistent as well performance, and consistency, especially in APAC, is very much of a rarity.
And it's also going to be really important. But before we go into the next map, we'll send you guys onto a quick little break. Grab yourself something to drink, something to snap. We'll be back in a few seconds with the second map, Consulate, picked by Stray Dogs. And here we are into the game. Consulate is the second map. First one has been won by Stray Dogs in a very good fashion of a 7-2. We've seen it and we loved it. Stray Dogs showing so far really well why they are in the playoffs, and now it is the time for pewpewGANG to step up their game. Individual playstyle might help a few times, but at this point it really made them lose so many rounds. Obviously, I'm not alone. To my side is still Kafula. How you doing? You still feeling fresh? Are you excited to watch this map, or are you still standing still on your ground and saying this is going to be a quick 2-mapper?
Look, I'm still excited to see how Consulate will really play out. It's not something that we generally get to see a whole heck of a lot, especially in Southeast Asia. And when we do get to see it, it's an absolute treat, really. So a Southeast Asian Consulate can go either two ways. It's either going to be the most longest map that you could ever see, because each and every team will take every possible second of the round to really play it all out, or it is an absolute flurry of just kills, an absolute whirlwind here. And by judging by the bans, it might be the first option here, given that Ying is out of the equation, Monty is gone, Vigil 4 as the key roamer out of the equation, so is Scopos. So we're taking out a lot of just the straight up raw roaming defense operators, and a lot of those in your face sort of operators for the offense, which leaves us with a still quite a fair few, mind you, frontline and roam operators to play. But that one niche to, still be able to, fill a certain positions, that won't be present. As I believe we may have missed the pause there for a sec.
But I will definitely agree with you. A lot of these very quick operators, very aggressive operators have not been banned out. But also that leaves us with the Mirror, with the Smoke, with the Warden, with the Blitz, with the Lion, with the Deimos. As another set of operators that could be considered one side from the side of pewpewGANG. The Mirror is obviously going to slow down things. From the side of Stray Dogs, we have the Blitz, we have the Deimos already, and that could also mean, well, this might be a little bit of a quicker round. And judging by the lineup we're seeing now, we have a Sense, we have a Deimos, we have a Blitz, we have a Grim. That screams one thing to me, and one thing only to me. If this is now not a quick take throughout admin, is using the Sense to knock off that entirety of that hallway and to cut line of sight, then I don't know what the stake is.
Well, it may be also that they are looking to use the Blitz as, a form of just straight up force some of the engagements out and have that to go with it as well. The drone does confirm Goyo's position, and there is already a Deimos in there. Exactly for that very reason, the Blitz does push on out and basically forces that engagement nice and steadily. So with that already done and dusted, that's your Goyo, that's your C4 out of the equation as well. So as things go for pewpewGANG, yeah, I'd say they were as well expecting a very accelerated push. It's unfortunate that right now, yes, Stray Dogs are taking their time with this until they get close to the site. And this is where they make a very explosive entry.
There's a very quick way, but I've taken already a little bit of space. Careful, there's a few more of these operators as we take a little bit of damage. It's not quite enough yet for the kills. Nate's coming out, but look at this long hallway. The Sense will play a great part in this. Sense will be one of the most important operators now when it comes to the side of Stray Dogs, because they will be the one cutting the line of sight of these operators and making sure that they're forced. As Warden, he cannot see through it anymore. And look at the other pressure coming through on... Oh. Could have taken you drawn away from that low barricade. Anyway, as the kills are happening, so is the execute. There we go. The two people falling out. pewpewGANG still find themselves in the man disadvantage as they have also lost another member, but they've taken out a very important one. Blitz gone, Grim gone. Two of these players bring it back down to neutral scoreline and slow down the game even further as Stray Dogs now find himself in a little bit in a tricky position.
Yeah, right now this is all a pretty difficult spot right now for pewpewGANG. A lot of the crossfires, Labyrinth is just hammering away with a revolver, and it's all a very quick forfeiture of the round by pewpewGANG. Really here, Stray Dogs just they are pretty locked in for all of this play. It's look quite just a difficult situation really here for pewpewGANG, because no matter how you look at it, really, it's they need to almost think one step ahead of their opponents, because if they're trying to match the speed, they will still get overpowered. Yeah, and they can't really play once again solo. It's the same mistake over and over again. If you want to roam, bring a second one, bring somebody that can hold a crossfire, or somebody that will be able to at least make a refrag, because then you can at least keep on playing for trades, and that already counts for quite a fair bit of a work here for pewpewGANG. And between, you know, Shiba Nuts and Barco, they should be aware of that very strategy. They're not rookies. They've played in Pro League before. They should know it all, and they've been on the top end of the echelon as well. So it feels like it's a bit of a head scratcher moment really here for me. The fact that for pewpewGANG they losing out some of these rounds in such fashion, whereas for Stray Dogs, look at it. The way how they've progressed, you know, from the players that I remember them back in the old Pro League days, they have improved by miles.
I think like the big difference that we saw, especially in the last round, is it was a 3v3, and when it is a 3v3, yes, you can't really always play together to always have the perfect refrag. You have to make sure you hold the space in the ground, especially as a defender. We had two of these players from pewpewGANG in the same room and meeting so close to each other, leaving a big gap to the Warden last round, who was playing on the same position where he's right now on the soda machine, giving Deimos the chance to just walk in, get the kill, and then all of a sudden he finds himself in a spot where he's not being threaded because the space is not covered. So if there would have been a person playing on that long desk, this could have been a whole different story. And here yet again, look at this. We're playing full forward. We want to make sure the opponents are slow. We don't need to risk our life of this. Yes, we try to help, but we put ourselves yet again in a position where there's so many ways to cut off our rotation. And the fact that Stray Dogs are using everything they have when it comes to drones and knowledge in gameplay, make sure they get these easy picks up, because later they're so confident in what they're doing. They've brought the same exact lineup as before because they know it's gonna work out. And look at them now rotating around the operators, knowing, right, we have the space, we have what it takes. Now what we need is just a few more angles we can attack from, because that blitz will draw the attention as the chaos starts to unravel. The Deimos coming in with the nade as well. He is on the spiral stairs. We have people on the window, somebody pushing throughout the hallway. It's going to be a little bit of dangerous stuff there. Deimos losing his gunfight, and the blitz still passionately waiting on that Goyo charge rate to pull down. That smoke might hurt himself a little bit more than I think he thinks is gonna help. But look at Grim. They may have lost Spiral, just now being retaken, but they've gotten another pressure point on the breach.
Exactly that, though. This time Shiba Nuts is all prepared and ready. Blitz comes on in, and perfect counter with the Warden as well. Barcode was ready to back him up, and this is what happens when you have finally some sort of a backup. 1v4 situation, and finally we do get to see some cohesion start coming out from pewpewGANG, and maybe now we will get to see some fight back. Maybe now we'll get to see a closer scoreline than what was a 7-2 back on the Nighthaven Labs. But it's only round 3. We still may see, you know, Stray Dogs look at this as like, okay, right, let's actually, you know, straighten out our act and actually, you know, get to work, get to playing the game. Maybe they will be able to, you know, bring it all back to the fullest. But right now for pewpewGANG, at least we get to see some glimpses of hope, and maybe this is where they will be able to really bring their form back. But it's only a singular round, so can't really bank too much on this.
Especially in that round, I feel like for the side of Stray Dogs, they benefit a little bit more of the fact if they would just always do something different. Now, last round was very similar to the one before, and pewpewGANG, they had a good enough time to adapt to what the opponents were doing, do exactly that right, what they've done wrong the round before. So I think if Stray Dogs, if they can get themselves to do something different every other round, pewpewGANG might not be able to have a fully adapted plan every time, and that will maybe give them every time the heads up. As we can see, this round the setup is all over the place with definitely a few of these roamers, but from the side of Stray Dogs there's a very clear plan here. They want to take the top floor and they want to make sure they do it in a class and in a fashion. Docker line, Blackbeard, and a knock on top of that. There's a few of these people that could be taken out because of 3 of these opponents roaming. If they would know this, they could potentially just rush the side because they would be in a huge man advantage here.
Exactly so. With lack of HP for Labyrinth as well, that will potentially deter him from going for more, well, vaster adventures really across the consulate. In reality here though, for pewpewGANG, they are starting to realize that playing together may just be the play, and exactly that Shitty Nuts is able to really punish the opposition. Yep, quite thoroughly, I would imagine as well. Minute 56, and now we starting to sort of think, well, where's the stall out? What's going to happen? And exactly that, the pre-fire down below is absolute end of it. Pipster does get the better of RDA, but already with Pure Lamar down, it's an attempt to try to maybe bring some sort of a comeback here, but it's all a danger. It's all a forfeiture, really, in a 3v3.
It was and may have been a 3v3, but another person falls and loses their lives. All of a sudden, a 3v2. Stray Dogs, they've lost the advantage. Not quite able to keep it. Also lost the diffuser as well. And look at it as we try to retreat. Just a few of these players that are dangerous, especially the shotgun close range. You know, we at least know one of these 3 players, but where are the other 2? And that is the important knowledge that we need to have from the side of Stray Dogs.
Exactly such. First gunfight does come on through. Grods wins it out against Gallet, and Labyrinth, despite trading on out, unfortunately cannot seem to do anything whatsoever really there. It is quite a difficult turnaround really there for Stray Dogs, but pewpewGANG really managing to lock it all down. Finally, 2 now rounds strung together. A pretty decent turnaround so far, but Cafeteria and Garage will be the next big test here, given that the site does almost require you to have some sort of an extra roam game to be happening. Otherwise, you're locking yourself into a very, very rough vertical game on top of the overall very claustrophobic position. So as it stands now for pewpewGANG, they very much need to continue their momentum, whereas for Stray Dogs, well, it's a question of where do they find their mojo back.
I would love for Stray Dogs to just go a little bit more traditional operators. Yes, definitely having these ones that will create the special scenario can help out, but let's be honest, when it comes to the basement floor, there's so many ways you can be attacking this. You can take it from the back side, from the Visa side, you can take it from the front side, from the exact main breach, or you can take it from the verticality and do a little bit of breaching. But for that, you always have to make sure you have the right operator line. And right now with this one, I would just love to see the glass being dropped and just something else being picked for it. Like, let it be a buck, let it be someone that can potentially also deal with these mirror windows, right? The nades are not always the best solution. They have somebody who will push in, but they don't quite have too many operators who could also even deal with Goyos. I mean, yes, they may have the nades, but if the Goyo charges up and the nade is thrown way too far, what can you do? They have what's really important, the hard breaches and the counter flank. That might just be perfect, because look at it, already we have the control on the server. There's the first few people trying to create a little bit of an issue with us, as they has taken Visa to 3 people. 3 people in Visa.
one of them is already gone, it seems, as, well, pardon me, that was around the server's area, but Grod looking to try to maybe reclaim some sort of a patience here, but Labyrinth has actually gone down, so his peeps are sheeping out with his play here all of a sudden completely thwarts any sort of a plan to execute for Stray Dogs, and once again, they just seeming to be missing out on so many opportunities and just lost all their teeth in a matter of, well, rounds.
This is exactly what we were talking about. The individual play here again, with a little bit of team backup, has worked out perfectly. Lockbit is looking for a few kills. A 3v4, definitely not impossible. It's just going to be a tough one. The side of PP again, very important that they keep it calm and they keep their mind at peace. Because as soon as they start to panic, this could have a different outcome. Bit calm. Just listen. Give their best. This might still be a turnaround. They have enough for you to look at it. 2 smokes, 2 nades. And another ace charge they could be using for their advantage. But the time is ticking down. This is the time where they need to become a little bit more active. The first 30 seconds are now coming in. The go shots are going to be popped. That means a lot of this time will just be wasted. You're going to have to be looking for a different entry point because just standing there won't help you. And with that, we neutralize it to a 3v3, 15 seconds. We're nowhere near close to get on site, but that fire will keep on being alive as another one dies by the nade. He gets a triple kill. Rizcap is the only man standing as the plant's going down. He could deny it. He doesn't know exactly where he is. He swings out the corner, gets the planter, and with that, the round is done and over. pewpewGANG in a second gets the round. Not enough cover to get this person out, leaving him in the last and final spot where he could have been, and just deciding the round by injuring the planter. And look at it, that was way too close for my comfort.
Yeah, look, I'm right there with you, Dianic. I'm lost for words. I will be honest here. The way how it's pulling away from Stray Dogs, pewpewGANG definitely feeling much more on the defense of Consulate, and it was look, maybe they're putting it all out in the map and trying to figure out sort of, you know, guys, like why do we keep on losing it? It doesn't have to be, you know, as bad as it is, but yeah, look, between Stray Dogs just missing and outright not watching their flanks, to pewpewGANG working together and actually playing for the counterplay and being able to actually pace themselves really well and play for time. This has been arguably one of the biggest turnarounds of the night so far, really. Given that OCE was a pretty decisive sort of set of games, here, unless Stray Dogs will be able to win out these next 2 rounds, so look, map number 3 feels more and more real by every round.
Number 3 could feel a little bit more reachable for the side of pewpewGANG. But it is still a very far away. Stray Dogs, they may have gotten only 1 round, but theoretically speaking, again, they only need 2 on the attack. What's happening here? Why is it ace charge not going off?
Bomb located by attack.
Too sure. No. Well, it might be muted. It might be muted on me.
Could be, but there was no mute sign on it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, smokes are being popped up. So Gorik and SSL, the verticality from down below will deal a little bit of damage, but not quite enough to take the players out yet. But it will make them move around. You're gonna have to be careful because now they could be used against him. Azadi will be the first one to find himself a cheeky little kill here. Straight immediately backwards. He knew there was somebody coming. That is the intel. That is the knowledge provided by these drones. And look, still so many there. Rizcap will find another one. And all of a sudden, this looks so much better for the side of pewpewGANG as the numbers from Stray Dogs are just being minimized 1 by 1. A 2v4. Second of the game just started. And you said it, it could be one of the games where every single second will be used, or it could just be a frag fest. And I think we've gotten our answers. I don't think this is going to be a very slow match.
You know, quite an accelerated one, as a matter of fact, of that. Gallet and Roldini are the 2 last remaining players did get to see some of the comebacks, some of the return to forms, the clutches, and all of that. But this one, I feel like this may be a bit of a sealed deal. Peak comes on through with a massive amount of pre-fires, meaning that, well, here it's more so just a play for times to try to maybe find some sort of a couple of frags, maybe try to destabilize a couple of positions, but that is basically about it. Unfortunately for Gallet as well, his position should be revealed, or at least the gunshot should have revealed the overall positioning. So here now, yeah, there's already a mirror ready to rumble. That's one to go, or rather one down, 3 more to go. With 28 seconds remaining, it's going to be a tall order.
Seconds left as the goals are being popped. One's on the right side, but it does not seem like he knows as the shot is being thrown. He flicks on his head. Gallet sends him immediately to the pig face. If they've managed to get themselves back onto the site a little bit, but the plan needs to go down. The cover needs to be there. He's planting on the table. Nothing to deny this unless they have the guns to do so. Will be denied by him as he walks on site, gets the first, gets the second. A cheeky little position on the breach, and it was not played. It nearly looked so perfect. It could have been a win, but here again, so little time to work with in so many angles. So cover in a 2v2, when you're going off the plan, you're basically leaving your teammate in a 1v2 scenario, and that was the issue. If they would have had a little bit more time, that could have looked differently, but it just wasn't. And now they're left with a 4-1, the same issue we had last map. This time, it's against them.
Yeah, look, understandable timeout starting to come on through from Stray Dogs as, well, losing out 4 rounds in a row certainly wasn't on their agenda either. And things are looking to, well, potentially go from bad to worse if they don't improve right here, right now, if they don't make the scoreline the 4-2, and just keep it at the 2-round differential. The way how this is slowly looking to pan out, maybe we'll get to see some sort of a return to form here on the defense in a similar way how pewpewGANG did, but with the way how the overall momentum has been, with the way that how systematically it's just been a pull apart of a game in favor of pewpewGANG, Stray Dogs kind of just, yeah, starting to feel like a very polarizing sort of team in comparison to what we got to see from them on Labs.
Looked so great. Also, the fast attacking round they had on this map looked so promising. And it's just the attacking side. Again, if they can get this to a full 2, that's all they need. They don't need more than a full 2. Then they can have a little bit of a cheeky comeback on the defensive side. So nothing is lost for Stray Dogs. And again, they have this map advantage right now. They're completely fine. They can send this to a third map if this is just not their preferred playstyle. But the thing is, this is their map pick. And this is something there's always been... You can always argue. But if you pick a map, you're always going in with the intention, right? This is our preferred map. We want to win this exactly map. So we should have the advantage, because right now, Stray Dogs, they might be a little bit in their head considering they are 4-1 down. And that is not a nice score to be in. This could turn to a 5-1, and that's where the scary story starts. Because as soon as it is, the mentality might crumble apart and we might be seeing a third map. But at that point, pewpewGANG would be coming in with a winning mentality and Stray Dogs with a losing mentality. That could be dangerous to the playstyle.
Exactly that. Look, for Barcode and Co, they just hoping that, well, they'll be able to keep on looking down each and every position. Funnily enough, you look at some of their score lines, not the most flashiest really. RDA 3-5, Grod on 2-3, Barcode 2-4, but it's the Rizcap and the Shibinat combination that has been absolutely sowing chaos. C4 to go out with already Labyrinth actually claiming the first frag onto Rizcap. Same goes for RDA. Surely this would be the round that Stray Dogs can claim themselves as the second point.
Oh, he saw him at the long range. Look at it. Shibu finds one, will be immediately traded. And this is what we've been highlighting from the side of Stray Dogs. Something they've been doing so greatly is using that manpower, using that advantage to their favor. And there you had it. The trade was immediately there. The flashbang came in, the call as well. The location was pinpointed, but it is a black pit, unfortunately, Grod. You're not going to be able to win this one because he will just wait and he will communicate with his teammates. The longer he stayed there, the more in danger you are. Well, now they've gotten the top floor control. They have the buck in their hands. They have the ash as well. But Kelty should be no issue. The one thing that will be is the time. Look at it. It takes down 45 seconds. They need to make soon a decision when they want to execute and how and where.
Exactly that. Well, already, the shots are being sent from up above, down below. That's barcode gone. It's all down to Grodd. Even he cannot do it. Just walks casually in front of the sights of the G36, and that was about it. That could have been really done there. 4-2 scoreline on our first half for Consulate. As a reminder, Stray Dogs, they claimed the first map, so all they need to do is bring this scoreline back into their favor on the defense, and that is it. A 2-mapper in their favor. But for pewpewGANG, it's only a three-round point requirement, really, to push themselves onto map number 3, that is Clubhouse. A much more knowledgeable venue for both teams, as a matter of fact. So, which would mean and translate into a much more back and forth of a matchup if the story stays true and the trend stays true here. But as it stands, round number 7 should show us actually plentiful amount of the results, whether Stray Dogs are indeed able to really bring it all back and force the momentum back into their favor, or whether it is ultimately the return to form from pewpewGANG.
One thing that I'm just fearing here from the side of Stray Dogs is they might play a little bit too safe, right? Look at this lineup. Yes, we have the clash. She will be wasting time in that hole. We have the smoke, who's aerial denied, and also time waste. When it comes to the go, the exact same thing. Castle is there to slow down the opponents as well, and then Mute will slow down the droning process and also the breaching process. So this entirety lineup has one big thing for me. A lot of it is aimed to slow down the opponents, to make sure they're slower than they have to be, and then pushing them in a position where they might feel a little bit too stressed or uncomfortable. Don't have something that kind of screams frag powder, kind of screams like a Malusi Fenrir that will give them the advantage when it comes to those gunfights. That is just something could be here the issue for the side of Stray Dogs, because right now the utility lineup is doing great as pewpewGANG, they're still trying to drone if they even are allowed to enter here.
The question of allowing to enter indeed is going to be the main one here, with the clash being present. Pure Lamar once again taking the full control of the British operator. Looking at the lineups as well. Look, I mean, the main one I'm hoping for is Barcode with the Demos pick, and in the meantime just tapping away at the toes. Oh God. Won't be particularly too happy about that sort of a turnaround. And, well, hello, there's the clash now. Who is spotting the opposition. The Capital is a perfect choice as well, but mind you, to try to counter the clash plays as well. So I'm wondering how this whole conundrum will be solved, because yeah, there is the Goyo canister, there are the smoke gas grenades. There's just a lot of utility that really needs to be dug through, and well, in reality, all it takes is just a force clash to drop the shield, it seems.
That was all that needed to be done. Grodd, on the other hand, was traded out as well. Position has been out taken under control from the side of pewpewGANG. Is now also the fireballs are coming through. You cannot stand there. He finds a little bit of a gap. He's not affected by the fire as they try to take the space, but Shimu finds one, finds two, potentially able to save and end this round for the side of pewpewGANG. They might be closing this up early. As Loki might still have a C4, is gonna be pop. Not gonna find anyone as the plan is now there as well. 30 seconds left. The bees will give information. A 1v4. What can you do as everything crumbled apart? And pewpewGANG exactly showing us what they wanted to show us from beginning on, that this is their playstyle and what they're so comfortable in. Shibu being a big factor why this round has been in their favor. C just walks in, gets himself a cheeky little triple. We're not even quad killing that round. And with that, we have the 5-2 standing. And maybe the history will repeat. Maybe this will be remaps, because right now it seems like Stray Dogs may have lost a little bit of their spark.
Attackers need to locate
Yeah,
the bomb.
whether it's the spark that has been lost or whether they just feeling a bit lost for all the options, things are definitely a little bit confusing. Really, is probably the only really way to describe what's really happening with Stray Dogs. Given just, you know, once again remembering how labs went and how confident they were about their play, and comparative to Consulate, where it's just all that confidence vanished apart from the very first round and the last attacking round. So only 2 points away now for pewpewGANGo to really score themselves that one map point to go send us into the decider. For Stray Dogs, it's a long road ahead, and one that I'm not even too sure if we'll get to witness really here. If we would have got to see, you know, the previous round to be one out, you know, make it a 4-3 scoreline, argument can be made that the ex-Jelita roster can actually do quite a fair bit of damage. Here now, with only 1 point away from the match point, things are a bit dire here, really, without any sort of opportunity to find any big opener. It does look like it is going to be once again an admin push, and a very one-sided whilst at it as well. So
Bomb has been located.
not entirely too sure what really to make of it as to what is going to be the end result, because single-dimensional pushes really don't bode too well, especially on a Consulate. So pewpewGANGo might just have them right where they want them.
Might be exactly what they want to be, but there's one thing I just want to quickly point out from the side of Stray Dogs. I mean, we've seen on Haven Labs the adaptations and making sure they stay a step ahead of their opponents has completely fallen off. I mean, look at it. There is no adaptation. The exact same lineup as before, and it already has not worked out the first time. So why should we pick the exact same the second time? You get it, may have been placed differently, but the push is a little bit quicker. They know exactly where these players are, and they're going to be using that to their advantage. The first one is going to fall, but Stray Dogs will be one taking the kill here, as the Blackbeard will be countered by the Clash, but there's a few more people right behind him, but they will be taken out as well. But look at it, he got himself in a very sneaky position. He could be going off the plan, and there's nothing that Stray Dogs could be doing here. One more Toxic Babe is in his pocket as he's trying to place that shield. As soon as that's being popped, he's gonna have to move RDA, dragging the attention to him. The C4 also ready. pewpewGANGo's being limited one by one. The second to fall is all up to Shibu. 1v3. So C4 is ready for the plan, but he's sneaking up on the long desk. Could be finding potentially a few of these people off guard. Nearly hitting that one tab. Could have been a little bit scary in my opinion. He knows where at least one of these opponents are. He knows where two is, but can he find the third? He has a good sense where he might be, but he just needs him to peek. Stray Dogs, don't peek. Stay calm and wait for them to swing around.
Or
as he swings on the corner, he gets himself the kill. And look at this. This could still be the turnaround, but 15 seconds so far apart from each other. The cross signal might be there. And Gullet will find the final last skill. Stray Dogs, they stay alive for a little bit longer. No match point yet, but honestly, Cthulhu, this round has been an up and down of emotions.
yeah, so well, going through the motions maybe is the case here, really, but it's so far it's a good return to form for Stray Dogs. The question being is whether it's too late or not. 2-round differential is still once again the case, in a similar way how we started off the second half. Going downstairs though, I'm looking at the lineup here. Labyrinth once again introducing the castle to the ranks of Stray Dogs, looking to yeah, it seems like the isolation of the yellow stairs is one one of the options here. It doesn't look like we'll be seeing much of the castle utility actually dedicated to the upstairs hold, which I would almost question here, given that a number of teams do tend to utilize the castle utilities up on the ground floor, and yeah, I actually get corrected here as well. Now, the reinforcement onto the double door into the Visa from Spiral certainly brings another level of flexibility here in the expansion towards the ground floor. So for Stray Dogs right now, it's a bit of a stretch wide sort of a setup, but they have plenty of running around room. So should the pressure come, they should be able to just back away pretty swiftly here.
Has definitely made and given herself a lot of opportunities to fall back. And look at this, already first in the engagement. Shibu will just make sure he's the first one to end, the first one to get the kill. Punishing a player for being way too out of position and way too far from his teammates. No retake or trade even possible. As we drop down the Skylight onto yellow, another gunfight. The first one will call, the second one as well. What is happening? The Legion getting 2 clean kills, taking out RDA and Rizcap, 2 very important operators for this line of sight, as we have lost our bug for the verticality. Nothing that we can create those anymore. And we've also lost our Capital. Could have been essential for the plant later. So leaving 3 of these opponents alive, Shiba's still a very big reason why pewpewGANG has made it so far. 16-4, and he's looking for more. Barcode sneaking in, looking for these gunfights. He knows somebody's behind that piano. He's trying to take that gunfight, but a triple kill from the Legion up above will just make this even more impossible, as they're being picked apart. Just takes a few more seconds for this to just completely unrail. As we drop down the hatch, we get 1. We're being left in a 1v3. What can we do? Not too much, as we might find a few gunshots, but there's so many opponents. Maybe a lot of time left, but let's be honest, a little bit of HP like that, this round should be pretty much over and decided.
Exactly the case. Should be a pretty swift conclusion of it all, unless they start swinging him one by one, flashbang to potentially force out the issue. But as it stands here, Barcode at least trying to hold himself nice and consistent. Unfortunately, yeah, just runs into Roldini at the end of it all. There's just too many angles to consider, too many angles to hold, and yeah, that's that for the round. 5-4, Stray Dogs finally starting to seem to be getting back into their own groove, and for pewpewGANG, that is a point now of concern. If this next round, if round number 10 does get finished up in favor of Stray Dogs, a timeout needs to come out, and I cannot emphasize this enough. For pewpewGANG, this could be a devastating loss should they completely lose out on this whole momentum.
A 5-4 is looking pretty promising for Stray Dogs to have this comeback. Now, looking at the last few rounds, where have you seen from the side of pewpewGANG? Yes, they've gone themselves yet again a lot of the times in 1v1s, but they've actually been playing a lot more as a team together. So how come they've been losing this round? Is it actually because Stray Dogs all of a sudden just get these kills? Because that Legion up above, he should have never gotten that double kill, if we're being honest. Where is exactly the reason why right now it might not be running as smoothly for pewpewGANG, in your opinion?
I'd have to say here that it's less of just, you know, pewpewGANG kind of, or rather Stray Dogs just, you know, locking in. Well, mind you, yes, they did lock in, and yes, they absolutely started, you know, pulling out some of the more audacious plays. But I think it's also a matter of just APAC once again, or rather the APAC curse coming in, which is just not really being too consistent on the attack. Defense is APAC's bread and butter, and you look back at the attack, and it can be an absolute wishy-washy mess that you could ever see in Siege as well. And so in this very case, I feel like this is just the curse of the attacking side. For pewpewGANG, they just can't seem to be able to find much of a grasp, and well, the defense from Stray Dogs is just much more polished in comparison to what we got to see from the attack. So in this case, I think it's just quite literally just down to the factor of defense strong.
Defense strong. I would definitely agree with you. When it comes to consistency, we can see that defense has always been a little bit tiny itty better than the attack. The attack has always been, as you said, wishy-washy. It works out, something it doesn't, and then that is something you gotta bring the consistency back in. And Stray Dogs, they just had a little bit more of a consistency when it comes to those team plays. Now, the coming next few rounds, pewpewGANG, they definitely have a great chance. It still closes up to move this and push this to a third map. The only thing that's just constantly on my mind is just the fact that in Europe we have a curse. You can never win your own map pick, but you will win the map pick of the opponent. And my question is then, am I bringing this curse with me now by casting this map, or do you think this is not going to be as much an influence? Because right now it's exactly that is happening.
I doubt that this is the EU curse kicking in here, given that just SEA/APAC in general is one of those regions where you get to see the game of seesaw in full effect quite frequently as well. So I think this is more so just the fact that with Consulate not being part of the consistent map pool for a lot of teams within APAC, and namely SEA as well. It's just a matter of how well you are prepared, how ready you are for some of the angles, for some of the setups. So in this case, it's just pewpewGANG being just unable to find their own mojo, their momentum, and with 1v3, it's all down to barcode yet again. It's just unfortunate that they started locking in for the frags this late into the round, and that's for round 10. That's a 5-all scoreline. That now Stray Dogs are just able to just keep on farming basically now that they are on the defense, and you'll get to see probably this effect if we do end up going into overtime. Is that the moment Stray Dogs will go on OT on the attack, this will be basically an 80% round for pewpewGANG to win. And so whoever gets the most amount of defenses will basically win out here in every capacity. It's only choice few teams that are able to, just, I guess as the people nowadays say, aura farm their power and just, win it out on just sheer just.
There's no way you just said that.
I said it.
There's no way you just managed to compare Siege with aura farming.
I said it. I'm pretty sure I'll have the production yelling in my ear in just a few seconds as well about that, but look. It is what it is. Game is game. There it is there.
Anyway, looking at this game, well, one team is farming aura points, the other team is sailing into the abyss. It is the 5-5. Whoever wins this round is going to be on the match point. Stray Dogs, they have the advantage because they are on the defensive side, but pewpewGANG, they've shown already greatness when it comes to the attack. So I wouldn't quite underestimate them, but they need a little bit of more of a hero play. In this round, yes, they need to play together, but let's be honest, if they have one hero play again from Shibu, this could be a complete turnaround. Stray Dogs, they need to make sure they play together because right now they've made a little bit of an adjustment, right? They've taken off the Clash and said, no more Clash, no more Castle. Bring in the Legion that has worked out perfectly for us and bring in the Azami that will just slow down these opponents even further and further. We have the smoke, we have the Goyon, we have the C4, and a lot of to deny that plan when it comes to it. So you have to be in the right positions because Stray Dogs, again, the same strat as before. pewpewGANG not changing a bit when it comes to their attack.
Yeah, really, just trying to, it feels like just brute forcing what they already know, and unfortunately, what they know is getting countered quite rather heavily here as well. The treasure drone does actually force the position off, and that is actually a perfect usage of the Goyo canisters against the defenders with Labyrinth. being forced off the spot. So right now, look, there may be an opportunity for pewpewGANG to actually turn things around pretty steadily if they're able to take control of the front desk as well and pressure it just about enough. The question being is how well will they be able to still hold off that onslaught towards the meeting room, as that is going to be a key pressure point as well.
So he tried to also take the space from down below. They're left with a minute in this round. They're gonna have to hurry up here a little bit because so far they're still trying to push through this hallway, as the bees will find the player, but the player will find the kill, and that is the thing. The attack is falling apart. Yet again, they're losing the HP and they're losing that player. Is a smoke in a perfect position that could pop that second smoke canister for it to be planted down, but all of a sudden he's not popping it off, and the diffuser will successfully be placed. Ishibu is finally showing up the player that we need, who will be taking on these players one by one. And look at it, pewpewGANG brute forcing the attack, and it's completely worked out. Galad, now the last man standing, will be caught in a crossfire. Will have nothing to do here, nothing to say in this round. Done, over, and dusted. Match point for pewpewGANG. Stray Dogs, they can bring it back, but this round they were in the perfect positions to deny it, but they weren't able to do so. That smoke canister could have made bids, but just for some reason it did not quite hit where it should have.
Yeah. It's quite an unfortunate turnaround here for Stray Dogs, but very fortunate one in the meantime for pewpewGANG, as they're able to claim themselves that match point, which at the very least will be able to guarantee them the overtime setting really to kick in. And from there on, well, good what could really happen. On the side of this very last round, round number 12, the regulation could either go one of the two ways. Either a regulation win for pewpewGANG, where they will be able to claim their stake here, move on to the map number 2, and to be able to, well, from there on, continue contesting the scoreline in their favor. Otherwise, for Stray Dogs, if they do push this to OT, they could wrap it all up right here, right now, without even needing to go to another map. And, well, ideally for them, I would imagine that they would prefer the latter case here. So kicking it all off for the defense, they introduced actually a recruit for Yolamar, which is not a bad choice per se. Impacts plus the ballistic shield is a pretty solid combination, all things considered. And then a run out as well, and that is Barcode, that is your Flores out of the equation. That's one of the two utility counters that is now gone completely, and Barcode as well has been actually farming up a number of kills as well.
The trade is immediately there. Look at it, Goyo. But his passive is already set on the map. But the trade has happened, and that means the 4v4 has been established yet again. So even though Stray Dogs, they had the opportunity and they had the advantage, it's been completely given away. This is something that will hurt a little bit, because the more it happens, the closer we'll get. They need to make sure they have here the advantage when it comes to HP players or even utility, because the attack is completely changed, completely swifted. They want to now try to go to the office side. They have everything they need. They have the Beast, they have the Capital, and they have the Osa. Those are the three main key parts here. We have two toxic babes, and that is it. We gotta make sure how we use them. We need to make sure with control from down below, with someone to deny this push, because otherwise I fear that this round might be quick over than we expected it. It's very intense as a team, so just trying to make sure they do the right thing and prep the right execute.
Next minute or so, this might be a pretty quick drop down already. Swings galore might be coming on through, as the shield from Shibina as well could be potentially the one to frontline the push here. 52 seconds, 2 shotguns ready and trained onto the position of the Osa, ready to rumble, but instead actually decides to go in for the whole push. No, that's a crossfire. Hello, you gotta look for your angles, my boy. as with 38 seconds to go, RiskCap does manage to at least get the return on the investment, but as it stands, RiskCap is gone. 2 last remaining players outside the building. Whatever ground that has been covered has now been left forfeit.
Well, that is the issue. One player still down below. Theoretically speaking, 2 of these players in a 1v2. If Pio Lamar doesn't come back upstairs, it could be a little bit close, but we are here with the shotgun. Grodin is at a big disadvantage here. We just need to make sure we get this shot down, done and dusted. Stray Dogs push it to the overtime. They send it to a 6-6. As they say, it's not over for us yet. But that means, as you said, whoever takes the defense will have the advantage. And look at this. Stray Dogs, they've gotten themselves the pick on the overtime. Because, I mean, at the end, they picked this map. But pewpewGANG decided the defense on the start. This is going to be really important for Stray Dogs to get themselves this first round. Because the second is going to be an attack. If they lose this defense, this game might be quicker over than we expected it.
Yeah, look, with overtime now in play and Stray Dogs actually continuing their reign on the defense, they might just have the upper hand here. Got into the OT. Main thing is they need to basically, well, win out this very round. The round after that, once they need to go into the offense, they probably will end up really losing that one out unless some horrific mistake will be made by pewpewGANG. And then the second OT defense should be pretty straightforward for them as well. So looking at this, I'm probably expecting some sort of an 8-7 in favor of Stray Dogs here.
Now that we've watched 12 rounds of this match, definitely, yes, the defensive side has a lot to say, but if we just look at the capabilities of what the teams are doing and how they've been playing, what team do you think has the biggest upper hand and has actually a chance to close this match up? I know that Stray Dogs are on the defensive side, so yes, naturally they have the advantage, but looking away from the defensive and the attacking sides, which team in your opinion has just shown a little bit more than the other one?
I'd say still I'd go with Stray Dogs, really. They managed to really come out straight out the gate, really, even back on map number 1. Really convincingly here. And despite the fact that, yeah, they started losing quite heavily to pewpewGANG on map 2 here, they still managed to bring it back to overtime. They still managed to keep themselves pretty well composed, and even now in the position that they are at, they are pretty audacious and quite ready to keep on contesting some of the more close by angles right closer to the actual point of entry to the buildings. Whereas on the side of pewpewGANG, it's always been, it felt like it was a game of catch up, really, if anything, coming out from them. So whilst they have my respect and they managed to really recollect themselves pretty well on Consulate, it's just not on the same capacity as what Stray Dogs been able to show us.
One thing that I really love about Stray Dogs is the fact that they will try to adapt as much as possible. And look at this, they've made a great adaptation to the backside yet again. And pewpewGANG, they're playing for this backside. They know and saw that Office might not have been the take that they wanted, so they have to brute force this lower end here. And it might work out in the face up, but Pio Lamar will find it first. With that, Sparrow was gone, pressure off their shoulders. RDA is gone, but Shivo is the one you guys are gonna have to fear. 18 and 7, he's just gonna walk in. He's gonna try to take this kill, but it will be a crossfire. Not for you, not for the second. The third is gone as well. And with that, the flawless has been established. Talking about how they could have had a big advantage, it will be Stray Dogs 2 rounds in a row winning and getting themselves on the match point. Now this is going to be a very important round because this could be the equalizer or this could be already the end. They stay alive, but you saw that small adaptation of operator lineup position and utility placement has made the big difference that round, and that is something that we've been noticing from the side of Stray Dogs, and that is something they've been doing very good so far. And pewpewGANG, well, now they're gonna have to show us what they're capable of doing on the defense, because the one thing they can do, and we've seen it Well, they can shoot, and especially Shibu, 18 and 8. He has been. I hope he gets a back massage after this.
Yeah, quite a fair bit of the carrying is being done by Shibinut as well. 18 to 8 is a one hell of a really feat to pull off, considering that the rest of the team has been very much on a full street. Really, there's no real other way to put it. But yeah, look, hopefully, yeah, back massage and definitely a good sort of strat session as well, because pewpewGANG does need one for sure. Otherwise, look, I'm looking at this matchup right now, 7-6. Everyone within Stray Dogs are in the positive KD as well, which is something that can't really be said about pewpewGANG either, and it makes me wonder as well how we even got to this very point as well, because of just, you know, how polarizing some of these score lines are. But nonetheless, a Deimos plus the Grim combination, you've highlighted it before, Dianic. It has been a pretty deadly duo before to just flush out some of the roamers, some of the defenders, and certainly I would imagine that case here as well.
And on top of that, if you really want to take every operator in, not only do you have the Deimos and the Grim, right? 2 operators that basically reveal a position, have a pinpoint location where you are. But they also have the sense they can cut your line of sight, but you will be still seen, right? You still have the point. Oh no, RDA. Getting yourself in a position like that, Stark, is not a great spot to be in. He's gonna not be taken out. And look at that cheeky pixel peek that he's now established with that shield. Could be a little bit of an advantage, but could also just not be too much, as there is still a lot of nades that could be used. Shibu is just losing health one by one, and finds himself in a good position. He managed to just walk away from that soda machine. The 2 players on that long desk, a player from Spell, could deny both of these 2 playstyles there, and just mean so much. Look at the verticality.
Oh,
no!
no!
And then Shibu is small, and he's
no.
gone! Nothing to do there. Fragga, the best player right now, is gone. And you're on the defensive side. 3v5 Stray Dogs. They're using everything they have in their power to win this match. Another one falls. It has to be a miracle run if they want to win this. A 1v5. Rizcab is going to have to make this a flawless for himself. All 5 kills he wants to win as he finds one, but a second will be denied, and that means a 2-0. Stray Dogs move to the semis. They secure themselves the spot.
There we go, yeah. Swift conclusion. Once again, it is he that sees the conclusion of a pretty interesting and pretty polarizing turnaround. Funnily enough, it feels like this is the second BO3 that I got to cast as well tonight, and it was a very similar sort of case, the very similar sentiment as well. And looking at the matchup that was the opener for the main channel, that was the Ludovica versus Discipline Esports. First map went very convincingly one way, and then Cafe Dostoevsky, that was the map number 2, was an overtime conclusion. Same goes here as well. Very swift. Map number 1, a 7-2, and then an overtime win at the end of map number 1 was the quick one, map number 2 was the long one. But regardless, congrats for Stray Dogs. They managed to really bring it all back. They managed to recuperate their losses. And on the side of pewpewGANG, look, we got to see some very promising, beginnings, some promising, opportunities here. But ultimately, it's just not yet enough to get them through and get them rolling. So hopefully we'll get to see them return to form, given that they were the ones to actually qualify higher in the group stage phase in comparison to Stray Dogs.
Well, Stray Dogs, they got themselves now in the semi-final, and I think there's so many things that all of these teams definitely still need to learn and take from this match. But the one thing that I can say, it has not been boring on map number 2. We've seen every bit, every little fight back. And also some amazing shots, like holy, like that flick from Gallet when he was walking down a long hallway and just swinging towards kitchen. Holy, like get to break room. I will not forget that because he was fighting against a shotgun close range and still somehow won that gunfight. I'm not gonna forget that. That's all I'm saying. But definitely a very interesting matchup, and all that we can say right now, the matches are still going on. We have a second match prepared for you guys in the other side of the quarterfinals. The next matchup will be Daystar against Prevail. Stay at the next one on this stream. Another best of 3 coming soon. But before we go to the next match, we will be sending you guys into a quick little break. So see you guys after the break.